Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at my top 4 websites for studying ETFs. So the first one I want to start off with here is the dividend channel. What's really cool about this is you can compare 2 funds with each other, and I'll show you how to do that right here. So you'll want to go to the symbol right here. Let's go ahead and just click one right here. As you can see, I already have some preloaded, but let's just pick VTI as always and VOO, which you know, VTI is the total market index fund from Vanguard and VOO is the S&P 500. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now notice this comes up right here, right? So what does it show? It shows growth of $10,000 with dividends reinvested and then growth of $10,000 without dividends reinvested. Now notice you can see all of the metrics here, right? So what would $10,000 be yielding you, right, on an annual return, right? VOO is obviously beating VTI and so forth, but that's just one example. Let's do a couple more. The next ones we're going to be looking at are our weekly paying ETFs. Now, as you know, the popular one right now is QDTE, and we're going to also look at YMAX. So when we look at the graphs, we can see how are these funds comparing to each other. Now, remember something, these funds are paying weekly dividends. So we're going to understand what that looks like for a year basis. Now, remember, these funds only started roughly 1 year ago, give or take a few months here, but it's almost exactly 1 year. So we can look at what the dividend growth would be with reinvested versus without dividends reinvested. Now you can obviously see here when we reinvest the dividends, QDTE is actually beating YMAX. Now notice this. Okay, without dividends reinvested, notice the dramatic difference. Here, there's only about a $400 difference, right? It's not too extreme with QDTE. Now, without dividends reinvested, notice that right there. The amount is significant, right? So what is this telling me? It's telling me where to put my money and how to allocate it. The way I like to think about these funds is these funds will drive growth ETFs. Examples would be VOO, VGT, VTI, and you could also put VUG, which is a growth fund, through Vanguard. It's something you might want to look at, and we'll take a look at in just a moment here, but I hope that gives you a good idea. Okay, now that we're back, we're going to be looking at the next funds, which is VUG, which is the Vanguard Growth Fund, and we want to compare this, I'm thinking, to VOO because that would be the closest one. VGT is too technology heavy, so let's just do VOO again. So you can notice what these funds look like, right? And notice when these funds for the inception date is, right? And when we're starting this. Now, I'm not going to get into when these funds started, but notice the amounts that have accumulated since then, right? So we're looking from 2010 to 2025. So that's a good 15-year span there. Now, obviously, we just started the year, so these numbers will change as we go through the year. But notice VUG is leading significantly, right? And notice the marginal differences, right? When we reinvest dividends, we're at 85,000 with VUG. Without dividends reinvested, we're at 77,000. So it's significant. Not a lot, but it's significant. Now look at VOO. VOO changes as well. So the takeaway here is if you can, always reinvest dividends. It's the smartest thing to do. So that's one website, right? We're going to jump to the next website to analyze these. Okay, this is another great website, and I'll list all of these down below in the description. So this is a stock analysis website, and I'm sure you guys remember from the video I did comparing 3 funds. It's the same exact website, so we're going to plug those in right now. So now looking at these funds, right, we're comparing the 2 big funds over a 10-year span, right? VUG and VOO. Now it's a growth fund versus the S&P 500. You can see them listed right down here, what the fund name is. So notice the difference, right? It's beneficial. Now it's not the best, but it gives you a good idea of what's going on. Obviously, I want to plug in my favorite one, which is VGT. I'll do that right now. Now, VGT is my benchmark. That's what I love to use. I'm a technology person, so I love to have these funds in there. Notice they're all Vanguard. Reason for that is the expense ratios are very low. It's the best in the industry. So when we look at the overall performance, right, we can look at a chart like this, which is always helpful. And, you know, we can compare the 5-year, we can compare the 1 year, we can compare the year to date, 6 months, 1 month, and then obviously all of them, right? Now, let's not get into this at the moment because the inception of these funds don't go all the way back. I'll explain that in another video, but just so you know why that changes. If we come back down to the website website here, we can look at how these are performing over year to date, 1 year, 5 year, 10 years, and the inception. Obviously, we can look at the top 25 holdings, and you can see they're basically the same in ways, but there's some critical differences here, right? So if we want to look at, let's say, okay, let's go to the growth fund, right? We can click on this and see, what is this? It's McDonald's in it, all right? We may want that. We may not want that, okay? Now, if we're looking at VOO, right? So that was the 20th listing, right? If we look over here, it's Walmart at $93 a share. So it gets us a good idea of what this is like. And if we come over here to VGT, we get Analog Devices Incorporated. I have not really heard of them. I don't know what their performance is, but you can see what it's looking like. So it gets you a really good idea of what's happening. So that is basically my stripped down version of what I'm doing to research my ETFs and also some individual stock, which are lying within these ETFs, which are updated and passively managed by the fund managers of Vanguard. All right, we're gonna jump to the next web. All right, so the next website I love to use is snowballanalysis.com. So what's so great about this is we can go ahead and go into this search icon, and I've been searching other ETFs and researching it, but let's go with the same ones that we were using, right? Let's do VUG, the growth fund first. So here we go with the information of the chart, right? We can look at all of its listings. But what I love about this is we can study the dividends. Where is the dividends coming from in the sense of quarterly payments, monthly payments, weekly payments, okay? We can see that obviously it's quarterly payments because it says it right here with the pay period, and it says the amount when the payment is going to be expected, okay? And it's coming down all the way down to 2022 and so forth. You can go back to when this fund was first inceptioned, or I should say, excuse me, when this fund started. So go ahead and look at that and, make that decision for yourself. Is this something you want to invest in or not? I love that. You can also look at some of the holdings, obviously, just like my other stock analysis website, but it gets a little bit more user-friendly, I guess, right? You can look at the classes, you can look at the regions and so forth. So let's scroll to the top. We can see the news, what's in this. Obviously there's nothing. And then obviously, there is a community, but we're not going to get into that. But overall, I love this for looking at dividends and understanding where it's going to come from. Now we're going to jump into VOO to show you that now. Okay, now we are in VOO, and what the cool thing about this is it looks exactly the same. We can see its quarterly payments, we can see the amounts, we can scroll to the bottom, and we can go all the way back. We can see the payout history, and we can see the dividend yield, which is really, really nice. I always like that. And then we can click on all to see where that dividend was going. It's a great tool. It's free. You just have to sign up, and then obviously we can look at the overview of it and all of the information, but it's the most powerful for dividends and understanding where the dividends are coming from, times, and how much those payments are, so you can get an average of what it is. Now, I want to show you two more funds really quick, just so you can see what high yielding dividends look like. Okay, we are now back with Roundhill QDTE, which is a really famous covered call strategy ETF. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. So we can see the dividend yield, obviously the annual payout, which is $15.40 per share. We can look at the dividends here, and it shows obviously it's weekly and what was the amount, when was the payment date, and so forth. Now, the only thing that I'm noticing here, and it's a system error that I've noticed, it's saying estimated, so that's why it all looks the same. I think their system is not recognizing it for whatever reason. It should be fixed in the next few days, but it's still a really good tool for you guys to look at. Let's go look at the next one, YMAX. Okay, now we are on the YMAX funds, and we can see the dividend yield is 56.73, which is just crazy. I can't believe that it's that high. I don't think that's sustainable, but that's another conversation for another video. The annual payout is $9.37. Now, if we look at the dividends again, the system is not recognizing this for whatever reason, but I'm just showing you, you can see all of the payouts for YMAX. It's a really helpful tool. So I like it. You can also go down here and see the payout history and also the dividend yield. We can go to all. So obviously you can see, it's been going up since its inception. Use that as a good tool for when you're investing. Now we're going to go to the next website. Okay, so this is the website I actually use the most out of all of them. It is Seeking Alpha. I am not a registered member. I just use it to study stocks and ETFs, but especially ETFs. Let's go ahead and check VUG out again. Obviously, it gives you all of the information, and what's really nice is that it's at a quick glance. And what's cool about this is that there's articles on this, right? So you can read about what other professionals are saying. You can go to the max time frame. You can look at the volume of when this started, basically, which is the fund inception. The fund inception information looks to be back almost into 2004, but I could be wrong. You can always double check that. But what's really great about this is you can look at all of the information, right? And it's nicely color coded so you can read this quickly. You can understand what are the percentages, okay? You can look at the ratings, okay? Obviously, this is going to be locked because you have to pay for it, but it gives you at least a 6 month ago what people are thinking of it, you know, and you can go down here again if you want to pay for it. I don't pay for it, but it's a good tool to use. You can look at the momentum, where they actually rate this fund, how good it is. You can look at the expenses. You can look at the dividends, which I love here. So here's a really interesting thing, right? I'm sure you guys have heard of the company called Consumers Reports. It reminds me of their grading system, you know, F, C, you know, what is this actually to you? So no other website will actually rate dividend yields for you except Seeking Alpha. So that's a really good tool to use. You can go ahead and look at the dividend yield right here. So you can look at it for 5 years. You can look at it for 1 year. The 10-year is locked, unfortunately, right? And they want you to pay for it, but don't do that. Just go ahead and use the free version. So the 5 year, obviously you can see where this dividend yield has been going. From this chart, according to it, it's going down. Now, remember, it's a growth fund, right? It's not a dividend fund. Go down here, you can see the amounts that it's been increasing or decreasing in this case. Obviously, you want to look at that. The dividend growth, how is this comparing? Which is a really powerful tool because we can look at so many different years. Like, let's say, actually do give us the 10-year for free. So we can go back all the way to 2015 and see, look at that dividend yield, $1.39 today, or I should say in 2023, because that's the information I'm clicking on here, right? Even though it says 2024, which is strange. Maybe the system is updating, but it's $1.91. So we can see, you know, it's been increasing, and it's just a good tool to use to understand, you know, is this a good fund? I would invest in this, but I'm not in this fund at the moment. Now we can go look at the famous one, the dividend history. Now, everybody that I have seen use Seeking Alpha always uses this tool because it's really, really powerful. You can go to the very beginning of when this thing first started paying. And remember, it's per share that this is what it's analyzing, right? So it's 9 cents per share, and you can see it's steadily been going up all the way to 53 cents a share back on, you know, December 22nd, 2024. You can see the price appreciation, right? Obviously, the price of the shares have been going up. You can see where it has been going for the past 5 years, quite significantly, right? We can also go down here, look at the payout history all the way to the bottom right here to 2004 when this, I'm assuming this is when the fund was, you know, the inception of it. But again, you can look that up on your own. I'm just assuming that right here because sometimes Seeking Alpha doesn't give you everything. You can also look at the risk. What is the risk of this? You can look at the liquidity. So it's really good. Look at that. You know, how many billions, right? Liquidity is really good. It's an A+ on that. You can look at what the peers, you know, are doing. So what's really good about this, I'm going to actually just click out of that, is it will compare other similar ETFs, right? So other growth funds and what that is looking like, right? So we can look at the 5 year. How does this compare compared to the 3 year, compared to the 1 year, even compared to 1 day, which is a really good tool for using, right? Obviously, we're not going to look at that, but we can come down here, trading, dividends, and then performance. This is what I actually really like to look at because when you look at this, you can get a good sense of, okay, where is this ETF actually going in the long term? Roll down to the bottom on the technicals, right? And then you can look at the options, which again, I don't use this, but it's a good tool to have. And then you can also do some charting. You can compare some funds and, you know, see, okay, is this actually something I want to be put in, right? Because look, here is the S&P 500, right? 21.82% versus that 30.66%. So it's outperforming that very well. Now, I'm not going to show you VOO because again, it's just the same thing. I hope that helps you because Seeking Alpha is probably the best tool for this. I really like it. The other websites are sometimes a little easier to read. Seeking Alpha can be sometimes overwhelming for some investors if you're getting started, but if you like detailed homework and understanding charts, Seeking Alpha is the best. Hope you guys like this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.